it's a tightrope that
Yeah.
you've gotta walk. But yeah, definitely I want to make sure that the crowd work aligns with who I am as a person. You know, I just go on some crazy rant, about like the Housewives series. I know nothing about them. And then everybody
Right.
comes and they're like, why aren't you talking about the Housewives? It's like, because I don't know. I misspoke.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah. Yeah. You're just going to set everybody up for a letdown.
Amazing.
Hi.
I
How's it going?
I'm all right. What about you?
Oh, I'm good. It's been chaos, but in a good way. So
Yeah.
I'm feeling good, feeling strong.
Okay.
I'm opening for Fortune Feimster tonight in Hershey, Pennsylvania. So I have been packing and my alarm went off and it was like, get in front of the computer. And I was like, oh, okay. So my apologies if I was a minute late.
No, you're completely fine. I mean, you're packing for a giant comedian. I mean, you might as well. I would go do that instead of doing this stupid thing.
Absolutely not. I am excited to do this. I'm happy to be here. I see you have a little cat in the background,
Yeah, and there's a
and
dog
that brings me
somewhere.
joy.
He's
I
a,
love. Oh yeah.
yeah,
Oh, I see the little doggy. Hello.
yeah. He has pink eye right
Oh, I
now.
got my little. I have a hairless cat.
Oh,
Oh,
nice.
oh no. Oh yeah, she's a hairless boy. He's over there. He's
Oh,
sleeping.
how you doing?
People get disturbed when I show him. So yeah.
Well, I won't. I
Um,
won't be disturbed.
they get very upset. Uh good,
Uh,
thank God.
well,
Let me shut this
congratulations
down.
on
I
this.
think it's making me lag.
No worries.
Yeah, there we okay, that might make things a little bit faster.
Okay.
Cool. Um, thank you. Okay, I'm ready. The crazy Caitlin is gone. Okay.
No worries. Look, I welcome all types of people, all walks of life. We don't discriminate here with anybody, any type of thing that they love. Well, congratulations though on this new album coming out. It'll be out in about a month, but this is amazing. This is a great. It's going to be a debut album for you, and just a huge step for any comedian in any facet of their career, and that's got to be work wonders for you.
Thank you so much. I'm really proud of it. It was 10 years of material, and I finally stopped being so ADD and put it all on one track. I was really proud that I got to actually record it at my hometown. So my aunts and cousins and mom and dad, they all came. So they saw me be disgusting on stage, but they were very supportive. And it was really, really fun. It was like a nice milestone to have at like a legendary club. So it was great. I feel excited and very relieved that it's finally coming out.
Had that been the first time they like a lot of those people in your family had seen you act in that sort of way? Because I watched a bunch of your stand up, some of your crowd work stuff, some of your TV stuff, and I just thought, wow, she came out the fucking cages just swinging her bat, ready to take on anybody, anything. And I got to say that energy was just amazing, just perfect, exactly what I needed right now.
Thank you. It is a lot. It I'm very lucky that I have a very supportive family, and
Mhm.
my mom, she comes to every show that she can. And as you know, I can be a little, gross, a little explicit. We'll call it explicit.
That's fine.
And my mother, she loves it. She's like, ah, the dirtier the better. But my dad is like, I will come to one show a year and that's all I can do. And I love you and I'm so proud of you. But just I can only handle one, and I totally get it. And he came to one show, and I'm grateful. And but for the most part, my family kind of I've always been this way, like in real life, so they
Mhm.
weren't surprised. But then to see it on stage and directed at strangers, I'm sure to my my Aunt Laura was like, oh, but it was fun. It was fun for me. So
Yeah.
they didn't say anything to me. So we'll see. We'll see what happens at Christmas.
Everybody gets a little drunk and they start talking about, oh, Caitlin, the way she was talking about
Yeah.
her vagina on stage, it's
Yeah.
a little comfortable. I really
Yeah.
loved there was one crowd work video I watched where you just started out talking to you acknowledge you had a boyfriend, but you're talking to this very young guy who looked like he was in his like at least 20 years old, and you're talking about sitting on his face and all that stuff. And I just God, I love that. I love that type of that very type of just I don't know how to describe it because it's indescribable. It's just very funny, and I don't see it as disgusting in any form or fashion because
Mhm.
it's just who you are, and you come out, you talk about how you got this burly body type, but you're a straight woman, and how you've been friend zoned, and I mean, how did you want to approach comedy and stand up when you were starting out? Did turning that how you see yourself or how the world sees you into a joking thing, was that always something you wanted to do?
It was always a part of like my inner monologue.
Mm,
Uh I went to art school before I started comedy, and I have a master's degree, if you can believe it. Holy cow. But it's in art, and a lot of my work was about being a quote unquote butch woman, but still trying to be feminine and like, oh, like, but I'm swinging a hammer. Like my job was construction, and I was still like, I'm a lady. And so it was always this push and pull between that. And so it kind of just easily was like an easy transition to go from that to talking about it on stage. And that was actually, talking about it is probably the better form than whatever the hell I was doing in art school. So um it was always just always on my mind. I want to be the cheerleader, the cute girl, but that's just not who I am. And it's like accepting that, and accepting that society is going to have a certain view of that or make assumptions about you because of that. And then just living with it and
yeah.
accepting it, and then creating your own type of femininity. Oh my God, I'm going into art school speak. This
Please.
is a critique. Yes. But it's so it's always been about that. And I remember vividly the first time I ever told jokes. Won a class. I literally Googled how to start stand-up comedy, and it told me to go to this free seminar. So I went, and at the end of the seminar, they pulled a name out of a hat, and whoever won got a free class in stand-up comedy, and they pulled my name. So I had to do it at that point. So
Mhm.
and I went to this class, and I didn't know that you were supposed to write jokes. I didn't know that you were supposed to come to the class prepared with 5 minutes
Oh.
of material. I thought we were going to go to the class and learn how to write 5 minutes of material. And at the end of the class, they're like, okay, everybody get up. And I was like, what? So I had to go on stage and just kind of talk.
Mhm.
And what I talked about was having big thighs, being a strong woman. And it was just me talking. And I remember one of the things that I riffed, I actually ended up, a version of it was on Colbert. So it's very much in my core of just like, every woman thinks about their body to an extent. And I was an athlete, so it's literally all I thought about for so long. And
Yeah.
this is a very long-winded way to say yes. I agree with you.
That you know what? I love long-winded answers. It really gives me something to work with here. The fans love it. They love this stuff. It's
Oh, thank
you
God.
know it's easy to like you could have just not done it, and anybody could have just said, oh, you have to do 5 minutes. I don't want to do this anymore. But the fact that you got up there and you went through with it and you just talked about what was true to you, and it was funny. People thought it was funny, whether they
Mhm.
laughed harder at Colbert or they laughed harder in the class. It doesn't matter, but it just worked. And I think that's what's important. But now I assume you're writing jokes, and how do you
Yes.
go about doing that? Where are you besides the stuff that comes personal to you, like
Mhm.
having a boyfriend or moving in, or just having a different body type? Where do you derive your jokes from, and how do you approach writing those?
Well, I always, one thing I did learn from that class, which you basically comedy classes are like, move, this is how you move the microphone, like, but one thing they did teach you was how to like write what you know.
Hmm.
And so that's kind of how I approach everything. I'm not gonna, write about something that I know nothing about. Because then the well dries up really quick. So I start from a place of, oh, I think that's a funny thing that happened to me. Let's walk about it. So I'll go on long walks. I'll go for like an hour-long walk. And if I think of something, I'll say it into my little speech thing. But mostly I'm totally inspired by my relationships, conversations. If I say something funny in a conversation, I'll write it down, which is probably very annoying when you talk to me. But if I disappear real quick, oh, we hit something. But yeah, it's definitely inspired from my life, my childhood,
Hmm.
what I'm going through right now. My mom is taking a big hit in this current hour that I'm writing, and it'll be interesting to see what she thinks. But yeah, it's all very personal. I don't know how
Yeah.
people write jokes about like, hey, trees are weird. I don't know how people do that, because they are weird, but I don't know how to tell you that. So
Yeah.
but I know how to tell you one time I licked a tree, that's more my style of comedy, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I love it. It's you're right. I think of Mitch Hedberg or Ray Romano,
Mhm.
or not Ray Romano, but like Jerry Seinfeld telling
Mhm.
just like regular jokes, and I'm just thinking, how does that work? Because the stuff that I gravitate more towards are the people that are just talking about themselves and their lives and everything, and
Mhm.
that's how that works. When you finished when you finished Dirty Bird,
Mhm.
it how did that make you feel? That must have been something, because you said, what was it? You said 8 years of putting things together, or however many years
Mhm.
of just putting things and getting the jokes and making sure it's just right. Yeah, is that something? Were you trying to strive for perfection, what was the lapse in making this last so long?
Oh, buddy, what are you, my therapist? Um, my therapist, I do go to therapy, thank God. Thank you, Ashley. She helped me a lot. I am an all or nothing person. So if it's not completely perfect, I don't want to
Mhm.
do it, or I will redo it until it is perfect.
Right.
And I think that's a big reason why I didn't record anything for 10 years. I guess it was 9 years when I recorded it, but it's very much a everything's got to be perfect. The jokes have to be exactly what I want them to be. My hour has to be exactly. And then um I realized everything in my hour was already on something else. Like I had recorded a Colbert, I did a
Mhm.
Corden, I did
Mhm.
a Comedy Central set, and a Don't Tell. So they were all in little bits around the internet, and they were fine. They're fine. Everything's fine. They're funny. People laugh. Of course, I watch them and I'm like, it's not perfect, but it's like you just kind of have to be like, okay, these jokes are done. I'm tired of telling them. I love them, but it's time to set them free and
Right.
release them and move on. That's the biggest part, because if you don't move on from them, you're never going to write more material, and your hour's never going to change. You're never going to change as a comic. So
Yeah.
I had to finally be like, okay, thank you, jokes, sweet dreams. I'll see you never. Goodbye.
But, for this new hour, okay, well, we'll still focus on Dirty Bird, but in the
Sure.
transition to making new jokes, are you gonna be able to tell yourself, "Hey," like, continue telling yourself, "Hey, this is all fine. Everything was fine before, and it'll continue being fine. I just have to give it my all and not overthink it."
Mhm.
Mm,
Yes, and that's been especially tricky because I've been going on the road, and so it's slowly removing old jokes and replacing them with new jokes. And that transition is so hard,
mm,
because you're like, oh God, they're not laughing. Oh, but of course they're not laughing. It's a new joke. Like, of course, you have to figure out how to make it work, and it takes a while. And so there was like a 3-month period where I was like, I'm the worst comic who's ever touched a microphone. I've
yeah,
never written a joke in my life. I don't know what I'm doing. And it can be very frustrating. So finally, it's at a place where I know that it will do well, and it's quote unquote good enough, but there's always room for improvement. But
Yeah.
it really is a painful process. And
Mm.
I've been bombing a lot recently. And when you bomb and you're not drinking, it's really tough.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's nowhere to cope. You just
Is it
gotta feel it.
now is it do you when you do these new jokes, are
Mhm.
you uh do you let the I'm sorry, my dog is barking, it's pissed me off.
Oh, I
Um
can't hear it. If
oh,
it
thank
makes you feel
goodness.
better, I can't hear it. Yeah.
Oh, well, $400 microphone. Good job. I'm kidding.
Hey, good job. Ball out.
But are you good at like going up and when you're touring or you're doing open mics or what have you,
Mhm.
you're appearing in the Comedy Cellar. Uh, do you tell people, hey, I'm doing new jokes, or do you go up there with a new with a piece of paper with everything written down on it and try to squeeze things in, or do you try to let these go with by telling them by just like letting things happen?
I will I will bring a paper up with me and just place it on the side,
Hmm.
and only if I need it will I look at it. But I will try, like, before a show I have a ritual where I write out my set list 4 times. And on the fourth time it's the show sign or the show what I bring with me to the show.
Hmm.
And but I will, if I'm really feeling not confident, I will wait until the middle and be like, so I just recorded an album. Woo! And now I have to write a new hour. So here are some new thoughts. Maybe we can all enjoy and you guys
Yeah.
can let me know. And usually the crowd is very like, "Yeah, we get to help, and they're very supportive. I'm very lucky that if you're coming to see me, you're chipper, you're not a negative Nelly, you're like a happy person. That's
Yeah.
usually the kind of audience I draw. They're usually gay as well. Gay people are I attract a lot of gay people. Love them.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's
God
good.
bless. Yes, and they're very supportive. And so I'll do like a 10-minute workshop in the middle where I'll just be like, these are new. Let me know what you think. And that part can be very fun. It's also terrifying, but it can be very fun. But it's only fun if on the other side you have 10 minutes of really hard hitting good jokes.
Right.
So if it does fall flat, you can get yourself out of that hole. And with social media, it can be tricky because sometimes they've already heard those jokes because they're on if they're a diehard fan, they've heard all of your jokes
Yeah.
and you're like, oh God, sorry. But usually I'll carve out a 10-minute section. And then in New York, they have a lot of new joke shows.
Mm.
So they'll book you, you'll be able to go and say, everybody already knows that this is for new jokes. This is where we try. And so I'll book myself on a lot of those shows, a lot of shows in Brooklyn where they're a little more experimental. And
Okay.
that's how I kind of come up with my new material. And once I get a half hour where I feel right now I have about 40-45 minutes where I'm like, okay, we can do this. But once you get to a half hour, you're like, okay, here we go. And it's really about being disciplined and not
Mm.
chickening out if something doesn't work.
Yeah.
That's what I
I
do. I'm a big old pussy. It doesn't work, and I'm like, oh, I'll sit on your face.
You guys like that one, don't you? You like that one?
Yeah,
Sex jokes.
it's a crowd pleaser.
You know, I really I like what you said about the energy thing because something I noticed in the difference between, let's say, your Comedy Central one and your
Hmm.
Colbert one. I believe the Colbert one, you weren't holding a microphone, so it
Hmm.
was a full body performance where you were able to really put on display what you were trying to show the audience versus the Comedy Central one. It was more intimate. It wasn't that giant
Hmm.
theater that Colbert has.
Hmm.
And it really felt, you were close, you were holding the microphone, and it was kind of like you were holding court. Uh, that energy, I think, is a lot. It really does a lot, especially for your jokes, because if you're delivering the jokes that you have with just a monotone of energy of a voice and a vocal
Hmm.
inflection, it's not going to work. And so you have
Hmm.
these multiple parts of the way you move and the way you talk and how you write the jokes that really work well together. So I think you have this good display of the high energy person that also matches. That's what you bring out of your audiences. You say your
Mhm.
audiences have high energy. That's what you created for them.
Mhm.
So kudos to that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I will say high energy is always how I've been. Even when I was in high school, it's always been like, we're at a 10 and that's where we live. So I've always just been kind of up there. And they say when you're performing, it's your personality times 10. So
Hmm.
I'm at 100 when I'm on stage. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And I'm glad it works for, it doesn't work for all people. And so it's just about finding those people.
Now, when you're you mentioned bombing earlier,
Mm. My
when
favorite.
not that I'm saying that it happens all the time, but when you're bombing, what's your parachute? Where do you tend to lean? Is it the sex jokes that we were joking about earlier, or do you try to
Mhm.
win them over in some fashion that makes them come back to your side?
My crutch is crowd work.
Hmm.
Um, I I don't want to say I'm very good at it, but I am. Uh, it's not intimidating to me.
Okay.
So some comics, they're like, I don't want to talk to the crowd. That's terrifying. And I'm like, well, what are you doing? What's with that hat? Like I have no problem talking to the crowd. And so I'll do that. If it's not going well and I've done some jokes that I know are good, like I'll try new and then I'll be like, okay, they don't like that. Here's a banger. If they don't like the banger, I'm going to ask you if you're circumcised. And not all the time, but I'll start talking to the crowd
Yeah.
and try and get them that way. And then after I get them on a roll a little bit, then I'll go whatever we were talking about. I'll try and think of whatever joke I have that has something to do with that and get
Hmm.
back on track. The goal is always to get back to doing jokes,
Yeah.
but sometimes you gotta, be like, you're with your mom? That's crazy, just to get them. Oh yeah, we're in this together.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Crowd work is so popular now, and it is
Hmm.
because of the explosion of TikTok and then throwing that on Instagram Reels, and now I see a
Hmm.
lot of comedians put their stuff on YouTube that is just like 10-15 minutes of crowd work, and it's true. You're right. Like some of them are like, I don't want to talk to the crowd at all, and I think a
Hmm.
lot of others just rely on that like way too much, and it sounds like you're like right down the middle, which is good. Like where you can like,
Hmm.
hey, I can write jokes, and then I also, if I need to, I can talk to the crowd.
Hmm.
Has that has But all that being said, has doing crowd work helped in terms of getting your voice out to a new audience and really attracting more people in so that they can stick around and stay for who you are?
Um, yeah, like I'll only post crowd work if it's something that I am aligned with,
Hmm.
because sometimes things happen in the crowd and you're like, that was wild, but I would never say that on stage, like that's not
Yeah.
my personality. So I'm not going to post that. It didn't align with me. Um, and I'll also make sure that um, I'm the one being funny because
Yeah.
sometimes people post and it's the crowd being funny and you're
Hmm.
like, that's not that's not good.
Yeah.
I always want to be the one that's being funny and then telling my point of view within that crowd work clip. That's the only way I'll post it. But the dream would just be to do all jokes, but then you're burning your material, so when you go to a show no one is surprised by anything you say. So it's a tightrope that
Yeah.
you gotta walk. But yeah, definitely I want to make sure that the crowd work aligns with who I am as a person. you know, I just go on some crazy rant, about like the Housewives series. I know nothing about them. And then everybody
Right.
comes and they're like, why aren't you talking about the Housewives? It's like, because I don't know. I misspoke.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah. Yeah. You're just gonna set everybody up for a letdown.
Has anyone ever when you're talking to some like in the crowd work as we've been discussing,
Mhm.
has anyone ever just crossed their arms or just not been with it and you just had to move on, or you stuck with it for way too long and it just made everything not work?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's how you learn how to do crowd work. You have to keep failing. It's so painful. Yeah. I did it last night. I was talking to the crowd. The crowd was bad. It was a
Mhm.
rough crowd. I won't say where it was,
Okay,
but it was
good.
at a club and not the Cellar, but it was at a different club. I won't say
Okay.
which one, but
It was
I
this
was
the attic, not the cellar, but the
yeah,
attic.
yeah, it was somewhere. I don't know, it was my house. But I was at a show and this guy, he was just kind of like pissed. I talk about liking short guys and he was short and we talked a little bit and he was fine.
Yeah.
And then I went back to him near the end of the show and he was like, "Sorry, I zoned out for a little bit." And I was like, "What the fuck?" So
Dude.
then I know, and then his girlfriend's like mortified and then I'm like he tries to be funny because he
Uh-huh.
realized he was like, "Oh, that was shitty." Oh, so he tried to be funny, but he ended up just being mean and then I had to be like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And so I talked to him for too long,
Uh,
and then it was like and then I had to get off stage, and it was like, well, this was turned into a great set, and now it just took a nosedive because I decided to
Jesus.
go back and talk to this nerd. I didn't need to talk to this guy. And I was just like, just trying to be like, "Hey, remember when we had fun?" And he was just like, "Who are you?" And I was like, "Okay, well."
Yeah.
So it's like, so you just have to do it and find out, trial and
Mhm.
error. And but yeah, it's always uncomfortable when you go back and the person is like, "What?"
Oh god. I don't go to a lot of live comedy. I haven't gone in a long time, but there's a lot of times where I think people just go and they buy the tickets, whatever happens, but they think they're going to be in a good mood. And then beforehand something happens and then they're in a bad mood, or they think that it's going to
Mhm.
lift their day up and they've had a bad day, like, hey, I'll just go to this comedy show. And then they sit down and then they're just not in the mood for it. And it just kind of ruins, it's like a radius around. It's just
Mhm.
kind of just a sinkhole for everybody. And then the comics up there going, I'm sorry, I'm doing my job. Like it's
Yeah.
you're wasting my time by not
Yeah.
laughing at this joke.
Yeah, it's people don't realize comics are very sensitive.
Mhm.
And it's not sensitive in a way of you hurt my feelings, I'm gonna cry. There it's you're rarely gonna hurt a comic's feelings because whatever you've thought about us, we've already said it out loud to strangers. So
100%.
so we're very sensitive with energy. So all the vibes that we feel in the room, we're very in tune to everything that's happening. So if you're sitting there, arms folded, it's like we feel that we see that first right
Yeah,
away. We see that, we understand it. We either shift away from it or you dive in and say, "What's your fucking problem?" So
exactly.
it's just we're very sensitive, we're very in tune. People are talking, we hear all of it. We hear you drop your chicken wings. We hear everything that's
Mhm.
going on. And I think the indifference is what hurts our feelings the most is the
Oh my
sitting
God,
there and
yes.
being like, "I don't care." And you're just like, "Oh, fuck." That'll make a comic magnet if you're just talking in the front
Yeah,
row and not paying attention to what we're saying. It's like, dude, you paid to see me. You
yeah,
paid to have a good time and you're ignoring what this isn't a nightclub. What are you doing?
yeah.
So yeah, I agree.
Or when people get way too drunk at like either beforehand or during the show and they're just
Hmm.
commenting and over again. I saw Mulaney, I think a year ago and change before he put out that new special.
Uh-huh.
And there's a guy just up near us, just like standing up and just throwing his hand like, yeah, man, I get it. And then Mulaney had to go like, that's annoying. Like that's annoying. And then they kicked the guy out. Like, don't
Yeah.
do anything, guys. Just sit down, pretend it's
Hmm.
church, and just laugh.
Yeah. Yes, it is church. It's church with the funny preacher.
With a
Yeah.
funny picture.
It's so hard because those guys, they're being supportive,
Mhm.
they're being sweet, and they're so happy. And but those are probably the worst ones because you don't want to be mean,
Yeah,
but at the same time, it's really distracting. And you're trying to focus, you're trying to, get everybody on the same page because that's what you want. You want the whole room to come together. And if there's one person just being extra, it's distracting. And
yeah,
so every time you do a punchline, everyone's like, "What's that guy gonna do?" And so I feel for you, Mulaney. I feel I feel for you. It's too much. Or when they echo what you say the
yeah.
punchline, they go, "And she said that." And you're like, "I did say that. You're right. You have ears. Now everybody knows that. You know that I said that."
there should be a new form of performer. We've got Maria Bamford did a show for her parents. We've got
Oh,
Kevin Hart and Gabriel Iglesias doing stadiums. There should be a new form of show where there's no audience. Well, yeah, there's no audience where the comedian is, and everybody's watching from movie theaters, and
oh,
you're getting piped in the laughter and everything, but you don't see anybody except for like screens or something. I think that would be a lot
you're just
easier.
describing the pandemic. I've already lived that. It is nightmare. It is so bad. Oh God, during the pandemic, we also had to do it where we were in like a what's it called? What's it? What movie theater, but outside? What's that called?
Oh,
A
the
drive-in.
yeah,
Oh
drive-in
God,
theaters.
that's the worst because you're on stage, everybody's in their car with
Yeah.
their tinted windows, and if they like a joke, they flash their headlights at you or they honk.
Honk, honk.
It's
That's what I was just thinking.
awful. It's so bad. I did like two of those and I was like, never again. I'm not doing this ever again.
Yeah, yeah. I'm so sorry for bringing up your PTSD with the pandemic.
Oh boy.
Oh my gosh. But although I would not mind a drive-in like concert, like going to a concert and
Oh
turning the
yeah.
car off and watching and then I can just drive off and not have to worry about finding the car
Mhm.
afterwards. But you're right, the
Yeah.
comedy show drive-in, bad idea. I'm so
Oh,
sorry.
how dare you? How dare you?
Well, Caitlin, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. This has been fantastic. You're a very funny person, and I'm so glad I got a chance to talk to you about Dirty Bird and your comedy and what you see and what you hate about audiences as well.
Oh, thank you. This has been very fun.
Yeah.
I enjoyed watching your cat in the back. Look at it, she's trying to sleep. Oh, I'm sorry, I woke you. Oh, what's their name?
So Nova, she came first, and then Maverick is that little boy down there. He's
Oh my goodness. Hi,
yeah,
Maverick. That's
it's
very sweet. Here, I'll show
it's been
you.
tough.
Here, look at this little nugget. Hi. Hi, little bugger.
Oh, it's like
Oh,
God,
I know.
gorgeous.
Hi. Hi. Oh, I know. I know. He's a
Oh,
sweet boy. Yes. Yeah.
beautiful.
I'm allergic to cats. So I had
Mm.
to pay for that one. So, and then we have another one here. This is Bowie, and she's a little bit of a bitch, but we love her.
Oh,
We
Bowie.
love her.
Oh my gosh, those colors.
Yeah. Yeah. She's a little torty and she's got the attitude to match. But
I love
anyway,
that so
so
much.
I'm a cat person, if you couldn't tell.
That's good. You have
Yeah.
towers all over the place.
Yes, exactly. It's a little much. They've taken over the whole apartment. But needless to say, this was a very fun interview. I
Yeah.
enjoyed
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. I'm not like everybody else. I just like to have a conversation.
Yeah, I love it. This was so fun. Thank you so
Um,
much.
you're very welcome. Good luck with the rest of the packing and everything,
Thank you.
and congratulations again on Dirty Bird. I can't wait to hear it, and it's I hope it blows up. I hope it's so good for you.
It's from your mouth to God's ears. Thank you so much, you
Very
sweet
welcome.
man.
All right. Have a good rest of your weekend.
Thank you. You too. Bye
Bye.
bye.